Hi guys, welcome to today's video, and today we're going to be making transparent bookmarks. Let's jump in. So for today's video, we are going to be using some printable acetate for an inkjet printer. This one is by Paper Cutz, who have kindly sponsored today's video. Now the acetate that Paper Cutz have is available for both laser and inkjet printers. I only have a black and white laser printer, so I'm obviously going to be using the inkjet version. They come available in two different thicknesses, 100 microns and 135 microns. I'm going to be using the 100 micron today as I'm going to be backing it. You're also going to need a printer. I'm going to be using my Canon IP8750. An optional extra is some kind of vinyl. This is a clear holographic, and I'm going to be using this along with a clear transparent plain vinyl too. To cut these out, you'll need a cutting machine. I'm going to be using my Silhouette Cameo. You'll also need your artwork. Mine has been designed by myself over on Procreate, and I'm going to import that over into Silhouette Studio. So let's get started. I've opened up Silhouette Studio, and the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have our page set up correctly. So it's currently on A4, and I need to turn on the registration marks. So because of it can be a bit tricky when printing on the transparent media, I am making these as long and as thick as possible and just moving the inset to the far left. Once we've done that, we're going to actually work on the imported images. Now, if I click on here, you can see that there is a surround that extends far beyond the actual image itself. That was just because of the canvas size in Procreate. So the easiest way to bring this down so it's not causing issues when we try to size everything is if you double click, it will turn the node edit tool on. And then on a PC, if you hold down the shift key whilst highlighting the top two there, you should be able to bring that bit down at the top. Again, if you hold down the shift key, it will jump a little bit bigger. And then if we hold the shift key and hit these two on the side. Okay, so now you can see that we are much better and that we are much closer to the image itself. So it's now time to trace the bookmark itself. Go over to the trace panel, select trace area, and then just obviously cover over the bookmark that you would like to trace. And we're going to turn the threshold up and trace outer edge. We're then going to move our illustration out the way, click the trace and go to offset. And we're going to bring that down slightly. Perfect. And we're going to press apply. And now we want to remove the inner one. Put the illustration back in and then group together. And now we need to do the same for this one. If you do get any bits like this in the middle of your offset, if you right click, release compound path, deselect the larger one, and then you can just delete it. So now that everything is grouped and traced with an offset, if you select it and then click one of the corner sizes, then we can have a look how big we would like our bookmarks to be. Now obviously this is going to completely depend on your illustration, but it's always a good idea to have a look at standard books and kind of the size that you would like your bookmark to be with a ruler. So I'm going to aim for about 5 centimeters. So I can actually go up here to the top corner, lock aspect ratio, that's a little padlock there. And then for width, if I hit 5, it should be 6.28 tall, which I think is perfect. I'm going to do exactly the same with this one. We're going to go for a width of 6. And now we can fill our sheet with these because we can actually fit multiples. So I'm actually going to duplicate these at the top with the replicate panel, and then I think I'm actually going to do just 2 that are slightly bigger. So I think that maybe I'm going to go for a width of 8, take us just over 10 centimeters tall. Now I'm going to group everything and I'm going to centrally align it to the page. If you find that it is a bit close to any of these cross-hatched areas, you can move it down, as we don't want any issues when we place the stickers for the next stage on and having them interfere with the actual print itself. So now before we print, we need to prepare our acetate. I'm going to be using the A4 100 micron acetate, printable acetate for inkjet printers. Now Paper Cutz actually do a 135 micron, but the A4 is only available in laser printing currently, but keep checking in because obviously this may change. Now this itself is only a tiny bit thinner, so it's going to be absolutely fine. I don't have a colour laser, so although I have access to the 135 micron, it's pointless me using it because it's not going to work unless I just want a nice black and white bookmark, which could obviously look fantastic. But we're going to go with 100 micron, and because we're using the specialist holographic vinyl to go over the bookmark, that's going to make it nice and sturdy anyway, so we really don't need to worry about the 35 micron difference. If I was to just run this through the printer, then obviously it's not going to pick up the registration marks when it comes to cutting on the Silhouette Cameo, so we need to make a slight adjustment. Paper Cutz has got this wonderful matte photo paper rather than the gloss, and this works amazingly for just putting on the corners. And because it's a matte finish, the laser in the Silhouette Cameo can pick up the registration marks much easier. So rather than wasting a whole sheet, we are just going to cut out some squares. I do this quite often, and we're going to put it in the 3 corners that we need for the registration marks to show up. The reason that we moved our artwork to the middle is so that it's not going to interfere when it comes to printing. So for the squares itself, you don't need to go too large at all. A strip like that is going to be absolutely fine, and we're going to cut this into 3. Now with the printable acetate, there is a right side and a wrong side when it comes to printing. So the way that you check this is you breathe on it, and that's possibly going to pick up on camera. If it's visible when you breathe on it, then it's the other side. So you want to be printing on the side that is not visible with your breath when you print. So as you can see, perfect. And we are now just going to pop those in the corner. Okay, so we have popped on those corner stickers, and I need to make sure that mine goes into the printer that way. Obviously yours may be a little bit different, so you'll need to check your own settings. So we are now going to print after I've set up the acetate. I've selected my printer and I'm going to be using my Canon. And then if you go to preferences on any of your printers, you should get a few more details, a few more settings. And I'm going to go for photo printing, but it's important you turn off borderless printing. I'm going to keep it as the glossy 2, but change this to A4, and print quality should be changed to high. And then we're ready to print. So this is all printed, and at the moment it looks quite transparent. However, once it's on the book itself, it's really going to pop. But to give this a little extra dimension and to protect our print, I am going to be using this clear holographic vinyl. So we don't want this to go over the corners of our acetate sheet, because otherwise the silhouette's going to have a tantrum and not want to read the registration marks. So I am going to start by snipping off the corners where each of these registration marks is. Now it can be tricky to apply this without any wrinkles, and it's a million times harder when you have a camera in the way like I do. So forgive any wrinkles that may appear. I'm going to do my best. The easiest way to apply it is to flip this to the other side, and then just with a sharp blade create a crease just in the backing paper so that we can peel that off. So if we start at the bottom and try and line this up, and you can use this sticky bit here to keep it in place, and I'm then just going to use my vinyl tool just to go over to make sure that that is nice and smooth. Then going to do my best to flip this bit here, and then we're going to take a ruler and try to push it along, because it usually gives the best chance of it not creasing. Now bearing in mind I'm having to reach over the camera, and it is a good foot or so away from me. It's quite frustrating. but once you've started, just a case of forcing it along, teasing it like so. So you may find that you have some bubbles in your artwork, and you can use something like a credit card to try and just chase them off the artwork itself. It doesn't have to go to the edge of the page if you can't manage it, because once these have cut off on the silhouette, then that should leave your design completely bubble free. So once you're happy that everything has gone through as it should, it is time to place this on the Silhouette Cameo. Now you'll need to have a play around with your settings. Mine are usually a blade of 28, double cut, and a speed of 4. As always, before we release this from the machine, we're going to check that it's cut cleanly, so we can always pass it through again if needs be. And that's turned out really well. So let's unload the rest of these. Okay, so we have got the 2 smaller designs, and if we start with the ghosts in the jar, these look really cute. I love the sparkles that are on there, and I'm just going to grab a book, and you can see how great that looks once it's in there. And obviously if we go onto a page, you can see the text below. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get that to focus. But just having that popping up the top of your book looks like that, looks really cute. If we move on to the bookshop as well, just making sure that I've got that the right way. So on the white backing there, it really comes alive. You can see it kind of all sparkling with that holographic finish, and that's what it looks like on the book there, and sticking out at the top. Now, I understand that not everybody's going to like this finish. It does admittedly dull down the print itself, but there is an alternative which I am going to show you now. So this one has come straight out of the printer, and you may notice that I don't have any of the stickers. That's because sometimes people find it a little bit easier to apply them to the reverse. And we're also going to put some vinyl on from the back as well, both the holographic and the clear, so you can see the differences. So I know it is very difficult to see here, but we've actually got 3 different finishes. The original is the one where we have the holographic vinyl over the top. And you can see obviously when it's put down, you just grab a book. It looks like that. It's lovely and shiny. You can see everything, but because the vinyl's being placed on top, it does dull down the print a little bit. The alternative is the one where we actually put the vinyl on the back. And I think that this one looks a little bit more vibrant. You still get the holographic sparkle shining through because obviously it is clear acetate. Just show you the little ghosty as well. So it works really well having it round this way, and obviously designs like this are double-sided anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much which way you put the vinyl on. And then lastly, I have used a clear vinyl, and that one pops probably the most just because it hasn't got any of the distractions of the holographic vinyl on there. So on the back, I just placed a clear matte vinyl over. Links to all of this are in my description. And I really like this one because although it is slightly frosted, and I mean very slightly, it's barely noticeable, it just gives that little bit of contrast for the acetate to sit on to make the colours pop. So if you compare it with one of the ones with the vinyl, it just, I don't know, the colours just look a little bit more vibrant. But obviously because it's plain, it's a completely different finish. So it depends on what finish you would like. So I'd like to know in the comments, which finish do you prefer? The one that's got the sparkly vinyl over the top, The one that's got the sparkly vinyl on the bottom, let's see if we can do a side-by-side comparison there. Or do you prefer the matte vinyl? Now, the thing with this printable acetate is that unfortunately it's not waterproof. You could use an acrylic sealer like this that I used in last week's video to make it waterproof, and that would work really well. You can just spray that on either before or after cutting. But to be honest, most bookmarks aren't waterproof anyway because they're made of card, so they're going to disintegrate if they get wet. But this is scratch proof, so it will be perfectly happy in your book, just poking out the top. How cute does that look? So these would make great gifts, or you can obviously use them to sell your illustrations if you would like to. The possibilities are literally endless. So there we go. What do you think? Are you team sparkles or are you team plain? I really hope that you have enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to drop me a cheeky like and a comment down below if you have, and let me know if this is a craft you are going to be trying yourself. A great big thank you again to Paper Cutz, the wonderful sponsor of today's video. If you need any paper or cardstock materials cut to a specific size, definitely get in touch with them as they have custom sizing available. Head over to their website, links are down below. Drop them an email, they are a really friendly bunch. As always, links to everything that I have used are in the description box of today's video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye!